Hi, my name is Sarah, and today I'm here to talk about The Space Between Worlds by Micaiah Johnson. Now, this book was a ton of fun, and even though there was a couple small problems at the end, I still rated it 4 stars and really enjoyed the read. It's honestly a mashup of a lot of my different sets of media that I really enjoy. It kind of has the timeline shenanigans of dark matter mixed with the dystopian atmosphere of Mad Max, and it is blended so well that I don't think I could have imagined them better together. Now, the basic plot of the story is that we follow a character named Kara, and Kara is what's called a world walker. And so her job is to navigate between the 380 different worlds that we now have access to through that her company created a machine to have access to. And her job is to go into those worlds and collect data and information so that her company and the government at large can exploit that information in their own current timeline. Now, the reason that Kara is chosen for this job is because world walkers can inhabit the same world in which they're already alive. So by definition, you need somebody who dies pretty often in their timelines. In fact, out of the 380 worlds, Kara's alive in just 8 of them at the start of the novel. The reason her mortality rate is so high is because even though the city that she lives in right now with her company is kind of like the stereotypical like future-ass city where like everything's sleek and like white shiny walls and everything like that, right outside of the wall is what's called the Ashlands. It's essentially like the Mad Max type universe that the world is run by essentially a gang with what's called an emperor at the top, and is essentially ruled by itself, and this gang makes all the rules. In terms of my favorite parts of the novel, the biggest has to be the prose of the author. She does a wonderful job of using language that is simple yet beautiful. She paints a world that I can really see in my head, and that's one of my favorite things about the book. Along those same lines, I really enjoyed the aesthetic that she created for both Wiley City and the Ashlands. I felt like I really understood what the Emperor looked like, and this might be weird, but like, for whatever reason, like those little touches, like Nick's obsidian teeth and the braids on the side of his head to represent his leadership as the second of his line, it's stuff like that, those little touches that really help me envision a world that we're living in. The second thing that I really enjoyed about this novel was how the author used the timelines. Because the multiverse is spread out basically by most similar to the current world to least similar, we're able to see a variety of different facets of each of the characters' personalities. And I really appreciate that. I appreciate how she uses the multiverse to really explore how much of our personality is determined by the circumstances that we're born into and we're raised through. And even just how small incidents can make a huge difference in any particular person's life. The third thing that I really enjoyed was the relationship between Kara and Del. It is so understated, especially at the beginning of the novel, and I think it just builds really naturally and it makes you really rooting for them throughout the entire novel. And I just kind of love the sapphic love story. It is so well done. Now I'm going to get into my cons of the novel, which are kind of spoilerly, so I will put a disclaimer here if spoilers bother you. So my big problem with the novel was the ending and how they resolved the problem with Adam. My biggest problem with the novel was the ending in terms of the wrap-up with Adam. It felt very wishy-washy in some ways in that, A, they leave him alive, but they're not worried about him, making the machine again. And I get that he's like gonna go blind and stuff like that, and he's gonna die in the future, but like, he's like a genius. Wouldn't he be able to figure out a way around the poison that they gave him? He kind of starts having like this transition that we see that's pretty quick, honestly, from like pure bad guy to now all of a sudden he wants to talk to Nick and like he's becoming like more of a better guy. Like, yeah, he doesn't make a full turnaround, and yeah, Kara's still not allowed back in Wiley City, but I get that the author was trying to redeem Adam and show that people, can move forward, but she spends a lot of the novel basically showing just like how ruthlessly ambitious he is, and that he wouldn't be more angry versus retrospective in this new debilitation that he has. That just seems really weird to me. And they also started building all these stakes around like Kara is willing to give her life for this cause, and blah, 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 and she's all ready to die for it. In this ending, she probably should have died. That's my problem with it, is it doesn't make sense to me, and maybe there's something that I missed out of this, but I just couldn't wrap my head around how that was a logical ending. And then like 2 really quick nitpicky things was the names in the multiverse was kind of weird, because it seemed like some people had very consistent names, and then you had Kara, who did not have a consistent name at all. And I get that the multiverse is supposed to show how like different things could happen and how you can kind of become different people because of that. And like Kara Lee versus Kara Menta, like that seems smaller to me, but to have one where she's Nellaline or whatever didn't really make sense, especially since you didn't see a ton of other characters whose names like change pretty frequently across the different multiverse. I realize that's just nitpicking, but it still just kind of bothered me. I know it was probably so that the author had an easier time distinguishing the characters because she was writing from first-person POV. It just left something to be desired for me. My final thing is, and this is more just like, I wish I had more of it, was I wish we had spent more time with Nick on World 175. I think it was really interesting being able to see him in a totally different light than he is on any different world, and I'd really like more information on like how, you know, just his father's death is what precipitated that, and that his brother didn't somehow influence him the same way his father would have. And so I would have just liked to spend more time with Nick. Also, I just enjoyed him as a character on World 175, and I just wanted more time with him. But other than that, I really enjoyed the book. If you're a dystopian reader, particularly like more YA-ish dystopian, I think this book was wonderful. If you liked dark matter, I think this is also a really great read-alike in terms of going through similar questions. If you've read The Space Between Worlds, I'd love to talk about it down in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, please think about subscribing. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video.